The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are continuing our campaign with Mark Harrigan, the new Guardian investigator from the Path to Carcosa Deluxe expansion. We recently completed Blood on the Altar, and on this episode we are playing through Undimensioned and Unseen. After Blood on the Altar, we did make a few changes to the deck. We added a police badge to help us out with Mark's willpower, which will be important in Undimensioned and Unseen, since we are fighting the broods of Yogg-Sothoth with willpower. We also added a physical training to help him out there. We added Zebulon Waitley and the Powder of Ibn Ghazi as a result of Blood on the Altar. Before we begin the Undimensioned and Unseen, you have to add a Madness, Injury, or Pact card to your deck, and that was Chronophobia. We removed a dodge and the smoking pipe, and we will have 1 XP remaining. As you can see from the summary here, we do have some fallout from Blood on the Altar. The investigators did put Silas Bishop out of his misery. Dr. Francis Morgan, Professor Warren Rice, and Earl Sawyer were all sacrificed to Yogg-Sothoth, unfortunately. Dr. Henry Morgan and Zebulon Waitley survived the Dunwich legacy, and before we began Undimensioned and Unseen, Mark Harrigan warned the townsfolk of the impending danger. So Undimensioned and Unseen is, I think it's one of the tougher scenarios from the Dunwich legacy, because it does force you to fight the broods with willpower rather than your typical combat. So it will be interesting to see how Mark Harrigan fares. I'm hoping that we've done enough to shore up his willpower before we embark on this scenario. Mark Harrigan begins play at the Dunwich village. It's a 2-shroud location with 3 clues. It has the action Resign, you hide from the creatures. And it also has the action Move a brood of Yogg-Sothoth enemy once toward Dunwich village. So you can use that to pull one of the broods from either the Blasted Heath, 10 Acre Meadow, or Cold Spring Glen to the Dunwich village, where you can hopefully kill it. Because we had 3 characters were sacrificed to Yogg-Sothoth during Blood on the Altar, we only have to deal with 3 broods this game, one of which begins in play at Cold Spring Glen. The other 2 will be out of play, but will soon come into play through the agenda and various cards in the encounter deck. Our agenda is 1A, Rampaging Creatures. It has the forced effect at the end of the enemy phase, move each brood of Yogg-Sothoth enemy once toward a random location. And it has a doom threshold of 5. And our act is 1A, Saracenic Script, and it has the objective only investigators at Waitley Ruins may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. And we will need 2 clues in order to advance and pick up our esoteric formula, which is the only weapon that can defeat the broods. You can take an action Fight. The attack uses willpower instead of combat, and you get +2 willpower for this attack for each clue on the attacked enemy. You can only use it on abomination enemies. We are playing Undimensioned and Unseen on standard difficulty. The skull is a -1 for each brood of Yogg-Sothoth in play. The cultist is Reveal another token, and if you fail this test, you take 1 horror. The tablet is a 0, and you must either remove all clue tokens from a brood of Yogg-Sothoth in play, or this token's modifier is -4 instead. And the Elder Thing is a -3 if this token is revealed during an attack or evasion attempt against a brood of Yogg-Sothoth. It immediately attacks you. Mark Harrigan has had a pretty solid campaign so far, and the Chaos Bag is quite tame by comparison to some of my other campaigns. There are no tablets or Elder Things in the bag, so all we have to worry about are the skulls and the cultist. The skulls will get progressively more painful as more broods hit the table, so hopefully we can kill some of them and keep that down to a nice -1. Mark Harrigan starts in play with his Keen Eye, which is his permanent that he can spend 2 resources to boost his intellect skill value or combat skill value by 1. He has Sophie, of course, who he will be relying on heavily in order to draw cards as well as pass those willpower checks. He begins with his Weakness Indebted, which he starts with 2 fewer resources, as well as the Powder of Ibn Ghazi, which enters play with X clues on it, where X is the number of characters who survived the Dunwich legacy, and in our case that is 2. So we are ready to start the game. We will shuffle up our deck and draw our opening hand. We're going to be looking for all those cards that boost our willpower, and as well as a weapon just to keep some of the other enemies that are in the encounter deck at bay. So hopefully we'll see our copy of Police Badge and Brother Xavier, of course, who narrowly avoided getting sacrificed himself during Blood on the Altar. So let's see how we do here. There's a Colt. There is a Shortcut, an Unexpected Courage, an Emergency Aid, and an Emergency Cache. We are going to pitch these 3, the Emergency Aid, Unexpected Courage, and the Shortcut to draw 3 more cards. There is our Police Badge, another Colt, and a Machete. So we have some choices as far as weapons goes. We will shuffle those back into our deck, and it looks like we are ready to begin. So I am going to play my Emergency Cache first of all to gain 3 resources. I think I am going to use 3 of them to play one of the Colts. There is an Avian Thrall in the encounter deck, so I think the Colt is a better choice than the Machete in this particular game. It has 6 ammo, and we will also get our Police Badge out to boost our willpower up to 4. And we can also use its free trigger to take 2 additional actions if we need to. That's going to be our turn. The Brood is going to move, so we will shuffle up our random locations, and it is off to the Devil's Hop Yard. So it will head over to the Whately Ruins. Go to the upkeep phase. We will draw a card. There's a Guts and gain a resource. Add a Doom, and we are ready for our first encounter card, which is going to be an Eager for Death. Nice to see that early. It's a test willpower 2, and we increase the skill difficulty by 1 for each damage. Or we take 2 horror. We are at a 4 versus 2, and we will just take that straight up. Actually, do we want to? Yes, we do want to take it straight up. I don't want to burn that yet. That is a -3. That hurts quite a bit, actually. So we are going to fail that test. So we are going to take 2 horror. That's very unfortunate. I thought we had that test in the bag. Chances were good. The Chaos bag is, I think that -3 was added during the Essex County Express, so I thought we would have a pretty good shot at passing that. So we don't have Brother Xavier out yet to soak that kind of damage for us, so we'll have to see. Okay, we are going to, let's try to grab some of these clues here. We're at 2 versus 2. I think we're just going to go straight up for the first one. That is a 0, and we will gain a clue. We do want to draw some cards here to try to find Brother Xavier, so I'm going to boost our skill on the next one by, we'll take a damage with Sophie and draw a card. There's a Perception. And so that'll put us at a 4 versus 2 for the second test. -1, and we pass. And I'm going to pitch the perception for the third test. Again, 4 versus 2, and we get a 0. So we grab that final clue, and we draw a card with the perception, which is a shortcut, which comes in extremely handy during this scenario because the brood of Yogg-Sothoth are massive, and you can play the shortcut in order to basically as a pseudo dodge to evade them if necessary. The brood is on the move. It is off to 10 Acre Meadow. So we will move him there. We will draw a card and gain a resource. Add a doom, and we will draw our next encounter card, which is a Towering Beasts. You attach these to the broods, and they get +1 fight and +1 health. So the brood is now a 7 combat and has 3 health. So that brood is going to be a little bit tougher to take down than normal. Mark is on the move. We're going to swing around here to Cold Spring Glen and flip this over. It's a 3-shroud location with 2 clues. Each enemy at Cold Spring Glen gets -1 evade, and you may take the free trigger to lure the creature into the dense tree cover, and it becomes entangled. Investigators in Cold Spring Glen may, as a group, place up to two of their clues on an abomination enemy in Cold Spring Glen. Group limit once per game. We're going to move over here to Whately Ruins as our second action. It's a 2-shroud location with 2 clues, and you may test. Each investigator at Whately Ruins gets -1 willpower, unfortunately, and you may take an action to test for intellect. If you are successful, move a brood of Yogg-Sothoth enemy 1 location in any direction. So again, you can pull the broods toward you if necessary, although it's far from ideal to try to be killing them at the Whately Ruins because of that -1 willpower. We will advance our act by spending the 2 clues necessary, so we will flip over to Act 1B, which is obtaining the formula. We have to check the campaign log. If Dr. Armitage survived the Dunwich legacy, we simply get to place the esoteric formula into play. So that's awfully nice. We get that. Otherwise, you have to add a doom. And so we will advance to Act 2A. They must be destroyed. And much like the Midnight Masks from the core box, this scenario, you're simply trying to do as well as you can. So you just need to defeat as many brood of Yogg-Sothoth enemies as you can. If there are no copies of the brood of Yogg-Sothoth in play or set aside, we can advance. So that will be our goal now, to take down as many brood as we can. I don't really like hanging out at the Whately Ruins, so I'm going to move again as my third action up to the Devil's Hopyard. It's a 2-shroud location with 1 clue, and you may take the free trigger. The creature follows you into the mud. Each investigator in the Devil's Hopyard may place 1 of his or her clues on an abomination enemy in the Hopyard. So we do have 1 clue left over that we picked up at the Dunwich Village, so if our brood moves toward us, we can certainly dump it on there. We could also hopefully get some clues on it with the Powder of Ibn Ghazi. That will do it for our turn. The brood is going to move, shuffle those locations up, and he is off to Whately Ruins. Glad we got out of there when we did. Not quite ready to fight the brood, I think. Would like to still get my brother Xavier out to boost our willpower a little bit more. We will draw a card. There's another emergency cache. Gain a resource, add a doom. And we will draw our next encounter card, which is Sorted and Silent. We attach it to our location, and if we are there at the end of the round, we take a horror. So we will put that there. Obviously, we don't, we've already taken 2 horror. We don't want to be sticking around at the Devil's Hop Yard. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take another damage to boost our intellect with Sophie, so we can draw a card. There's a flashlight, and so we're going to go 4 versus 2. That's a skull. That's a -1, so we do succeed. We will grab that other clue. So now we've got a couple clues. Second action, let's move up to the Blasted Heath to see what it is like. Blasted Heath is a 4-shroud location with 3 clues, and you lure, it has the free trigger, you lure the creature into a patch of sand. Investigators in Blasted Heath may, as a group, place up to 2 of their clues on an abomination in the Blasted Heath. So we do have several locations now where we can place clues on the broods. We can place 2 on at Cold Spring Glen, 1 at the Devil's Hop Yard, and 2 at Blasted Heath. I still would like to see Brother Xavier, so we're going to keep drawing here as our 3rd action. There is another shortcut. Brood will move. Brood is going to head off toward 10 Acre Meadow. So he will head over there. We will draw a card, which is a Vicious Blow. I'm going to pitch that because it's not going to be very helpful this game. We will add a resource, a doom, and let's see what our next encounter card is. It is a Frozen in Fear. Okay, so that's going to chew up our actions. If you perform Move, Fight, or Evade, it takes an additional action, and you can test 3 willpower to discard the Frozen in Fear from play. It is our turn again. What we can do, I'd like to gather those clues if we can. So we're going to spend 2 resources to play our flashlight. It has 3 supply. And we are going to attempt to investigate this location. We will spend a supply off it. So we are going to go 2 versus 2. Not great. It's a -3. That's a failure. Going to try one more time. That is a cultist. If we fail, we're going to take a horror. That's really bad. Yeah, we fail and take a horror. So we are up to 3 horror as a result of that. That was really not good. Alright, we can try to break the Frozen in Fear. We're a 4 versus 3. We'll just do it straight up. There's an Elder Sign, so we are +2, and we will get rid of the Frozen in Fear. Brood is on the move. We are going to flip this turn, so he's off to Dunwich Village. He is coming our way. Possibly. Yeah, so we get a card. There's an evidence. Okay. Card and a resource. We will add a doom, which will flip us. Flips us to Agenda 1B, Calamity Strikes. You shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and spawn one of the set-aside Brood of Yogg-Sothoth enemies at a random location. So we will do that now. We get rid of the Sorted and Silent. So we discard that first of all, and then we shuffle. Shuffle all those into our deck, as well as our sorted and silent. And we have to spawn a brood, so let's shuffle that up. Brood is off. He comes up at 10 Acre Meadow. So our skulls are going to be -2 now. So that's not great, but we will have to make do. And we advance our agenda to Agenda 2A, biding its time. It has a doom threshold of 6, as well as that forced effect that moves the broods. We will draw another encounter card. It is, oh, there's our Unhallowed Country. It is that treachery that blanks allies, and you cannot play allies, and you need to test 3 willpower to get rid of it. I think I'm content to hang out at the Blasted Heath for the time being. I'm going to pitch my emergency cache to gather 3 resources. And I'm going to draw some more cards, I think. I'm going to draw 1 card. There's an emergency aid. I think I'm going to play that. And we'll spend 2 resources to get rid of this damage on us. Broods are going to move. Brood at the village is off to Cold Spring Glen. So he comes down here. Brood at 10 Acre Meadow is off to the Whately Ruins. So he goes there. We will draw a card. There is our Chronophobia. That is going to be our weakness. So we have to take 2 actions to discard it, or we take a direct horror. We do have to test for Unhallowed Country. We are a 4 versus 3. We'll do it straight up. We get another Elder Sign, which is +1 for each damage, but we are at a 4 versus 3, so we get to discard that. Okay, we are... we'll add a resource. Can't forget that. Throw up a doom there, and let's see what our next encounter card is. It is another Towering Beasts. Okay, we're going to drop that, I think, on the brood that already has a Towering Beasts. He will be, I guess, our designated bad brood this game. And the chances of us killing him is fairly small. He's now up to an 8 fight, and he has 4 health, so he's going to be really tough to take down. This other brood, he's pretty small, so hopefully we can deal with him. We're still looking for our brother Xavier, so I'm going to, first of all, we're going to get rid of this Chronophobia. Take the 2 actions to get rid of that, and we're going to draw another card, which is an Evidence. Broods are going to move. We'll shuffle that pile of locations up. Brood at Cold Spring Glen. He's off to the Whately Ruins. Once again, the broods love to form packs in this game and chase you around in a pack. Brood at Whately Ruins is off to 10 Acre Meadow. So far the broods are staying far away from me. I wouldn't actually mind if the weak brood came up to me, because I could dump 2 clues on him and do some damage. Okay, we draw a card. There is our Shell Shock. That will whiff, because we have no damage on us. We will gain a resource and move to the Mythos phase. The encounter card is the Creature's Tracks. We either have to take 2 horror or spawn a set-aside brood of Yogg-Sothoth at a random location. We are going to spawn the brood. We do not want to take the damage. We're in no position to take the horror right now, so we'll shuffle it up, and it shows up at Dunwich Village. Okay. We're still looking for Brother Xavier. We really need to get him down. We could also really use our If It Bleeds to help us out, get rid of some of the horror on us, because there's quite a few of the creatures' tracks in the deck, and that would pretty much kill us at this point if we draw another one. So we will... we could use the evidences to fuel some checks. Let's try to grab a clue first of all. We're going to use that and pitch an evidence. Use a supply off the flashlight, pitch the evidence, so we will be at a 4 versus 2. Another Elder Sign. Holy cow. Okay, so we will grab a clue there. And I'm going to draw a couple cards. There is another Machete and an Unexpected Courage. Broods are going to move. Brood at the Whately Ruins. He's off to... Actually, he's just going to stay there. Brood at 10 Acre Meadow. He is going to stay there. And the Brood at the Dunwich Village is... He is coming to the Blasted Heath. Okay. That's what we needed. Alright, we're going to draw a card for our turn. There's another emergency aid. I've got to discard a couple cards here. I'm going to pitch this gun, and I'm going to pitch this machete. Okay. So we are going to gain 1 resource, and we need to add a doom. Let's see what our encounter card is. Ruin and Destruction. Uh-oh. That, if there are no investigators at the same location as a Brood of Yogg-Sothoth, Ruin and Destruction gains Surge. Otherwise, each investigator at the same location tests 3 agility, and for each point you fail by, you take a damage. I'm a 3 agility. I'm going to take a damage with Sophie. Draw a card. There's our If It Bleeds. Okay, this is good. That's really good. So we are at a 5 versus 3. See what we get. +1, so we do pass. Okay, we are in a position to kill a brood. So we can place up to 2 of our clues on the brood, first of all. So we will drop those 2 clues on it using the free trigger from the Blasted Heath. We are, what are we? We're a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to pitch a Guts, 9, 10. 10 versus 6. I think we like those odds. -3, so that will be a damage. And we get to draw a card for the Guts. There's a Vicious Blow. No help there. But we can attack it again. So we are again 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I will pitch an Unexpected Courage to go 9, 10. And we get a -1. And we... Whoops. Wrong one. Add a damage. And that will kill the brood. So we have taken down our first brood. We will add that to our victor display. What we can do here, we can actually spend a resource to play If It Bleeds to heal 2 horror. We can also spend a resource to play the evidence to grab a clue. So we replenish our clues there. That's awfully nice. And yeah, okay, that was a very productive, that was great. Got all sorts of goodies out of that. We've got one action left. Do we head to the village? That's a good question. We could evade a brood, drop a couple clues on it and kill it. Or we could head down to the... We've got 2 clues, so we could head down to Cold Spring Glen. That might be our next best bet. So we're going to head over to the Dunwich village as our third action. Broods are going to move. Brood at 10 Acre Meadow is off to Cold Spring Glen. Okay, nice. Brood at the Whately Ruins. Now I really hope he doesn't go to Cold Spring Glen because I don't want them packing up there. He is off to the Dunwich village, so we can move him right there to 10 Acre Meadow. Okay, I like the setup here. We can actually move, we can get a free move with one of our shortcuts down to Cold Spring Glen, drop 2 clues on this thing, and quite possibly kill it. So let's do that. We need to draw a card first. There is our home front. No help there. Add a resource and a doom. Let's see what we get for an encounter card. It is a Rotting Remains. Oh, good thing we healed that horror off us. This could have been really bad. We're a 4 versus a 3. I'm actually gonna take a damage with Sophie. Gonna draw a card with that. There is a guts. We're gonna go 6 versus 3. Oh, there's the auto fail. Ouch. No. That's 3 horror. Ouch. So now we're at 4 horror. That, all my thoughtful planning there didn't pay off. Okay, we're in a bit of trouble now, but I think what we can do, we're going to play our shortcut. We're going to move to Cold Spring Glen. We're going to use Cold Spring Glen's free trigger to dump 2 clues on the brood. Not a resource, a clue. So we are now attacking this thing for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll pitch the guts for 10. Draw from the encounter. That's a -2, so we do a damage. And we are going to do it again. So we are at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pitch the Unexpected Courage for 10. And that's a -2, and we kill another brood. We will add that to our victory display. And yeah, that's 2 broods down. Okay, and we've still got 1 action remaining. Now, I do not think I can kill this brood. I really don't want to go insane because we end up... I don't want to take a mental trauma. And there are a lot of ways to take a mental trauma. So I think what I'm going to do is simply play my other shortcut to move back to Dunwich Village and take the resign action. Just to, yeah, spare us. I don't have any. I don't see where. Can't wait for Brother Xavier, and there's just too much horror in the deck to be sitting at 4 comfortably. So we will take the Resign. We did kill 2 broods in remarkable speed. That was amazing. And we did Resign. So Mark will end up with 2 experience points out of this. He did a lot better than I thought I would. It's unfortunate we were unable to kill that final brood, but I think considering the amount of horror in the deck, we were best off to Resign. Let's just take a quick peek and see what was coming up. There was a Frozen in Fear on top, so we'll look at all the cards here. Let's see what we got. We were about 4 cards away, so we were going to get a reshuffle from an Eager for Death, which might have hurt us. But yeah, there's just too much. There was another Rotting Remains. There's the Creature's Tracks, which would have driven us insane immediately. There were a couple Rotting Remains in there still. Just too dangerous. And we were going to have to reshuffle in 2 turns, so that would have thrown everything back into the deck, and things just get dangerous. So we did very well. Let's see where Brother Xavier was. I'm kind of curious about that. Oh, he was the next card. Well, look at that. Okay, and where was Zebulon? He was way down there as well. So I had all of my willpower allies were in the bottom of my deck. Also, my I've had worses were at the bottom of my deck. So, yeah, any of those would have really helped mitigate some of that horror. But it is what it is. We finish off the Undimensioned and Unseen with 2 experience points, and we head off to where Doom awaits. And we will only have to have 1 brood escape for that. So that is very good. Very happy with how this went. That's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed this playthrough, I'd appreciate it if you could leave me a thumbs up. It helps out the channel a great deal, get noticed by new players, and build this community. If you notice that I made any mistakes, or you'd just like to chat about this great game, please leave a comment down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to be notified of when I release future content. There is plenty of content coming with the Path to Carcosa being released. If you'd like to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com, or I can be reached on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.